Pro wrestling talk from the four corners of parts unknown. This is That Wrestling Podcast. Welcome to That Wrestling Podcast. Probably for the first time in a while, I think all four of us are here at the beginning. I don't know what to say here, so play the music.
What are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing today? What are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing today?
Sing, Joe.
In
One night only.
So
it is What Are You Wearing? I was hoping Joe would sing it again like he did last week. The weekly check-in of what wrestling shirt we are wearing for the podcast. I have the Bash at the Beach 1996, the night that changed professional wrestling forever, from the friends at Homage. I still don't have a deal, but those shirts, you can't stop buying them. Homage is like a drug, man. Needless to say, go to homage.com and get as many as you can, and tell them I sent you, because it won't get you anything, but hopefully it'll get me that deal. Brian, what do you have?
Well, I got a shirt on of a guy who's been quite in the news lately and has a real interesting decision coming up. And it may be the last shirt with him and his group, his old group, I should say. It is the Red Undisputed Era Forever shirt. And of course, I'm talking about Adam Cole, that we'll be digging into later.
Oh, I love that shirt. I still may buy it. I think the red one's so much cooler than the black and yellow. Brian or Kevin, go. Couldn't even think.
That's me. We'll touch on this guy in a little bit as well. I don't have a Malachi black shirt, but dude looked like $1 million.
There is a pro wrestling tee sale this weekend where you could get one if you wanted one. Use code summertime, I think, for 20% off, Kevin.
I think with the amount of shirts I bought over the last year, I might actually have to ask permission to buy something for the first time ever.
No, just do it. What's that saying?
Do now.
Ask for forgiveness over permission. Do it. Yeah. Do it.
But I'm wearing an Aleister Black shirt. It's very witchcrafty. It has the red and black all over it. I'll say it again. Dude looked like $1 million on AEW. I can't wait for a little bit until we talk about it. We'll
talk about that later. Joe, go ahead. Bring us home.
I'm really offended that I wasn't first and you did not acknowledge me as the head of the table.
And that shit don't work here.
What I'm wearing.
Well said.
Yes. You know what? And I was going to go, what are you wearing?
But you didn't.
But
so maybe if you would have, you would have been first.
Because I knew you weren't going to acknowledge me as my rightful place as the head of the table. Yes, I actually bought a Roman Reigns shirt.
Which is crazy. Like, I don't know anybody that's bought a Roman Reigns shirt.
But I don't know. I dig the shirt and I love the character. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm wearing it and it's doing its job. Anytime I wear it, it annoys my wife. And I'm like, you just have to acknowledge me. And she's just like, shut up.
Well, I'm a grown man that just bought the brand new green John Cena t-shirt. So, I mean, I guess we're in the same boat there.
What's funny, Brian, I actually wore the red Undisputed Era shirt on Sunday, just like walking around the house. And my wife thought it was a Van Halen shirt. And when I did a double take, it kind of looks like one.
Yeah.
Like the guitar.
I was like, whoa, this so that makes the shirt even cooler to me.
If you're listening to this and you are wearing a t-shirt, use the hashtag TWP t-shirt at thatwrestlepod and give us a pic, show us what you're wearing. So at the beginning of the show last week, I was not here. And then I jumped in right in the midst of GCW talk, and it didn't dawn on me until after the fact that Brian worked himself into a shoot regarding Matt Cardona's entrance at the GCW homecoming event. Brian, did you actually think the fans were going to hurt him on the way in?
100%.
Really? Why?
Because you saw what happened in the moments after the match was over.
Big deal. Throwing a can at somebody is not the same as trying to physically hurt them. like punching them.
Oh, really?
Hitting them with
So
a pizza cutter.
if I throw a bottle at you and it hits you, that's not physically hurting you. Try
That's
again.
assault.
Try again.
Not
What else?
coming from you.
It's all part of the show, Mark.
Fair point.
And I mean, I'm sure none of those people in the crowd were athletic to the point where it actually hurts. I mean, they were wrestling fans. Come on. But
now listen, I think I used the line like 200 people would have attacked him. Okay, maybe not 200. Could one crazy a-hole decide I'm going to take a swing at this guy because Nick motherfucking Gage for life, bro. I got no teeth, bro. Absolutely.
Hey,
I'll take that to the bank.
Brian, he has 3 teeth, okay?
Yeah, that is plural. That's true.
Jay, do you know what? I feel really, really brave. Maybe I'll wear my old Zack Ryder headband if he shows up in Vegas.
Well, then
that
I
is
won't be
brave.
good. We'll be on opposite sides of the. Not because I think someone's going to hurt you. I just don't want to be seen with you wearing the fucking headband with the spiky hair. But Brian, yeah, I just wanted to revisit because I know when that match got announced, you guys thought I worked myself into a shoot because I really wanted to see it until I got it, and then I'm like, eh. But you thinking that he needed the security because honestly, even though I'm not a fan of the guy, I'm sure he could have beat every one of those people's asses that potentially could have tried to hurt him. But working yourself into a shoot, brother, jabroni Mark, whatever.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
Whatever. So the big story in the week that was that Brian's thought did not need an emergency podcast recording was that WWE released Bray Wyatt on Saturday, and there was a tweet at WWE. WWE has come to the terms on the release of Bray Wyatt. We wish him in the best of all his future endeavors. Now, this kind of came out of nowhere, and since it happened, there are reports that WWE said it was a budget cut. There's also reports that he was dealing with some mental health issues, which is very serious, and a lot of it, I think, has to deal with the passing of Brody Lee. What's really interesting to me is that he hasn't been on TV since WrestleMania. And I don't think Randy Orton did anything that could have hurt. Like, it wasn't a real injury. So the one thing I want to ask you guys, do you think that maybe Bray Wyatt asked for his release? We'll start with you, Kevin.
One thing that I saw earlier today I thought was very unique. In some of the "we wish the best of the future endeavors," they also say their real name. It's Wyndham Rotunda, right? That's his real name.
Mm-hmm.
But so they said Bray Wyatt / The Fiend. So I thought that was kind of unique. I don't.
Well, it didn't say The Fiend. It just said Bray Wyatt.
I thought it said Bray Wyatt /
So The Fiend is still under contract.
So what if he just comes back not as Bray Wyatt? Like is like a big swerve. I know that's like a long shot. I think I don't think he asked for his release. I think they're making a lot of crazy cuts, which we'll get into shortly. But I think it's just one of those where maybe he didn't want to compete and he's making a lot of money on the sidelines. And shoot, they let go of Braun recently. They let go of all sorts of superstars. I think it's more of budget cuts. He's not going to want to wrestle and more let him free, save up money and be happy elsewhere.
Joe, what do you think the deal is?
I think he got released. I don't think he asked for it. And I definitely don't think it's budget cuts because his merch is making money hand over fist. I mean, they had a special championship title for him because belts are made for holding up pants.
Almost had it.
Almost had it. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely think it was, I think they just basically let him go. And I think it was another one of those like message to the locker room that if you're not happy here, we'll let you go now because we don't see AEW as real competition and we're the biggest game in town. So, I mean, Vince did say it at the Q2 that they're doing their own thing and we'll give you a few of our leftovers. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment.
I don't think it needed an
day,
emergency podcast.
Well, it was just that Bray Wyatt is such a big character.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian, I just felt like something needed to be done, but you said no, and that's fine. What are your thoughts on the release?
Yeah, it was shocking. For reasons you guys said. He's been able to reinvent himself so many times. I've absolutely loved The Fiend. Some of the booking decisions of him losing to Goldberg and that Hell in a Cell debacle with Seth, like kind of throw off the momentum a little bit, but his creativity, his promo work, all top notch. Can Triple H bring him back to NXT like he did Samoa Joe after he got released? I would love for that to happen. I can't imagine it would, right?
When Samoa Joe got released, he had a job an hour later at NXT. Right. He just had to keep quiet for 3 months. Now, I think that, he's been off TV for months and no one really knows why. Like I said, it could be injury. It could be mental health. It could be creative had nothing for him. But I think maybe he just needed a break. And, you just made the joke about NXT. I think that maybe he will be back in WWE. I don't think maybe not as The Fiend. Maybe just they'll go back to the old Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt, or like the original with like the Hawaiian shirt and the fedora. That was my favorite. I enjoyed the first incarnation, but it's a win on all parties, though. He gets a break or a release. If he decides to stay in wrestling, he can just write his own ticket, And then for WWE, I think it's good because you eliminate a huge salary. And if it's a situation where you want to put more people on the roster, maybe you bring up 3 people from NXT that are making the same amount as one Bray Wyatt. I mean, it could be a mixture of those things. But what do you guys think the next step is for Bray? We'll start with you, Joe.
He's going to take a break. I think he could work with his brother. His brother's doing Bo Dallas is doing a side business right now, isn't he?
Well, I don't even.
I think I read.
Do you have 2 sources on that? Because I do not know what you're talking about.
I think he's doing something along the lines of like some farming thing or whatever.
I think I read that too, Joe. Yeah.
Is he working at Uncle Clucker's Chicken?
Nice. No. I can see him just taking a break. Because let's think about it with like the mental health thing. When did he get burned? It was in December, right after Brody Lee passed away. He made a needed break from there anyway, so he just came up with this to keep him off TV for a while, but they needed to finish it at Mania, so he came back and did that, and then he's like, gone again. Maybe he's just burnt out.
Well, funny you bring up the burnt Fiend. For Comic-Con at home, Mattel had their WWE panel. They are making a burned Fiend figure, which is kind of fun. Yeah, you can check out the panel on our social media. It was a fun one. Brian, what do you think is going to happen next for Bray Wyatt?
Yes, I mean the world is his oyster. He could go wherever he wants and be incredibly over. But I'll tend to agree with Joe and maybe to your point originally, Jay, about did he ask for this release? Maybe this was a mutual thing. Maybe he just said, even though he's been sitting on the sidelines for a couple of months, that just need to step away. It's entirely possible. I mean, he was on, I think, obviously, what was it, the second season of the NXT like game show to earn a contract, right? So he's been
Cody,
with the
right.
Yeah,
Cody was his mentor.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Great
I didn't
memory,
know that.
guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, what's Cody up to? He just retired, didn't he?
We'll
get into that.
We'll get into that later.
No, just his right shoe.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have to wait and see and find out. But if he does not show up in a wrestling company for a year, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Kevin?
I don't think he will join a wrestling company for Brian. You said a year. I think I'm agreeing and minimum that. How old is his little kid with JoJo?
They just had 2 in the last year or 2. Yeah.
So he's probably enjoying being at home, being a dad, not being on the road, enjoying family. I think we won't see him until back. If we do, I'd say mid next year. I don't want to say I'd like to see him jump to AEW. The only reason I say that is because that's the main promotion that I watch outside of the WWE family. But hopefully we do see him again, just for the fact where entertaining as hell. There is one loser with Bray leaving, though, and that has to be Alexa Bliss. and her whole shtick, because there's no return of Bray to like kind of go after Alexa in that, and that's been kind of getting a little stale too. So I don't know. Bray leaving is poor on a lot of fronts. What were you saying, Joe?
With Alexa, in the situation she's in, she needed something. So, I mean, this is the best possible thing for her. And, I joked that maybe the key to getting Alexa to go back to the way she used to be is like that, like what they would do on 80s sitcoms, like a frying pan shot to the head. And then like the birds will swoop around and then she'll realize who she was. I think maybe Nikki Ash is the key to getting Alexa to going back, but that'll be something for another time. I don't think Bray needs to be in wrestling. And if he does, it's only going to be WWE. I certainly do not want him to go to AEW, but if he does go somewhere else, it's not that big of a loss for WWE because every few years they come up with a new scary character. Undertaker, Kane, Papa Shango, even the Boogeyman. While as corny and comedic as that is, and a lot different from the Fiend, they can just come up with another one. But has it ever been said who created the Fiend? Was it Triple H? Was it Vince? Was it Bray? Like, what? Any confirmation on who created the Fiend?
I thought all signs pointed to Bray having it as maybe he's not so much the creation, maybe, but certainly like the input of the character development of the Funhouse and the puppet characters. From everything I've heard, it's been all Bray's just ideas and concepts. I'm sure they have a writing team in Vince and Triple H. I'm sure they all have input too.
Shit.
That's right. We'll always have that. Yes.
Yes. So while we just voiced our opinion of this, there was another person that went to Twitter and posted her opinion about the Bray Wyatt release. At Ronda Rousey, I've seen you same fans in finger quotes chanting, "We want Wyatt" last night, chanting, "We want beach balls" over Bray Wyatt performing. If the WWE treated him like he was expendable, it was because you ungrateful idiots did first. Now, a lot of people online went after Ronda, and she's not wrong. I mean, if you're one of those assholes that was chanting, "We want beach balls" when Bray was in the ring, you don't deserve the right to say "We want Wyatt." Any thoughts on Ronda's tweet, Kevin?
I like it if she's preparing a return after with a kid to be like a monster heel. And that would be like if she wasn't pregnant and she was doing that to like, and then next week put out another heat seeking missile on Twitter. I don't disagree with her. I think out of the blue, it's almost just weird, kind of.
She's
behind it, but it's a little like, okay, you were given everything when you entered WWE. Took you a little bit to get where you were at there, get comfortable. Like, when was the "We Want Beach Balls"? If it was the night after Mania, everything goes that night. If it was like a random Monday in August, okay, maybe not. But you kind of go for the fun. That's the thing. You're at a live event, anything kind of goes. You know what I mean? Like you're part of.
This was TV.
For the fun.
That was TV. That happened. It's just like it's the fans that think they're more important than they are. The CM Punk chants, the Becky chants last week at the pay-per-view. Brian, any thoughts on Ronda's tweet?
I'm opposite you, Jay, on this one. I thought it was way out of place. To Kevin's point, I can remember those Attitude Era shows with good old JR saying, "It's freedom of expression. The fans can do what they want. They paid their hard-earned money for their ticket. God dang it."
God.
Sorry, that was a terrible Jim Ross. Edit that out.
Good old Brian.
Well, that's all right. He's pretty terrible on his own too. So,
fair point. I thought I don't remember that chant happening. If you want to get into the specifics, I don't remember that chant happening for anything Bray Wyatt and the Fiend and the Wyatt families happen. I feel that for the most part, he's been incredibly well received by the audience. So I think she's wrong on that. This wasn't a Fandango versus R-Truth match, right? Yeah. So I think it's wrong on that. And I think number two, just again, with the technicalities, you're talking about that crowd. I mean, if you're referencing a crowd that said beach balls 3 years ago, it's not fair for that Chicago crowd that I think by all accounts was basically a sellout. It was a huge crowd that they had, with the return of the fans. So yeah, I mean, I get what she's coming from, but I don't think Bray was the right person to bring that example up. I don't think it applies.
But if it did happen to Bray, then it's the perfect example to bring
If
up.
it did, yeah, I don't think it did.
Remember it. The only time I remember a beach ball was when Cesaro went into the crowd, grabbed the beach ball, and popped it.
I do remember.
Then they chanted, "We want beach ball," and guess what? That was during a tag match on a pay-per-view that Bray Wyatt was not a part of. I think this is just another case of Ronda Rousey being oversensitive. That is her MO, and it was in UFC, it's in WWE, it's in everything. She's very emotional, and it's not a bad thing, but she needs to learn to, if it's not involving you, maybe you should step away.
Yeah,
I mean, the hormones are getting to her.
That's true.
But the beach ball thing was not that.
Pregnancy
that was
mood
Cesaro,
swing.
That was a Cesaro match.
We'll have to double check into that just to see. And then finally, I got into a little Twitter issue this week. Somebody tweeted the following: WWE canceled my order for 2 t-shirts trying to support Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss. Just lost a customer. All right. So this type of shit, you cut my favorite wrestler, you lost a viewer. Like, we all worked in radio, and there was always that one person say, "Oh, well, you just lost a listener because you're playing too much Metallica." Well, go fuck yourself. Go F yourself. Sorry. We got a memo trying to cut down on the swearing this week. Anyway, so that tweet by this guy kind of sparked this long explanation from different people. So the guy again wrote, "People are steadily being turned off by WWE. Give it time. AEW is building a masterpiece, and their customer service is phenomenal. WWE has gotten too big and doesn't care anymore. The corporate giant expects the show to keep going no matter what until it doesn't." So another guy chimed in and said, "Masterpiece is taking it a wee bit far," which then I chimed in and said, "When the announcer constantly says names wrong, including the company name, it's not a masterpiece. AEW is a great alternative, but far from the one to put WWE in the ground," which led to a response from Dave LaGreca, host of Busted Open.
Okay. Okay, now.
"No one should be looking to put anyone into the ground," which then led to a response from Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful.
Oh, my. All the heavy hitters.
Completely agree. "I want everyone to do well and have compelling shows," which when I read it the first time, I just thought of Kevin's son, Brett. Oh, I wish we could both win.
Yeah.
I wish we could tie. I really but look, if you're pissed off that Bray Wyatt got released, it's understandable. He's a crowd favorite, but we don't know the true story until he talks to Jericho on his podcast or he sits down with Sean Ross Sapp. We're never going to know. As much like when Aleister Black got released, he did the rounds. He was on Jericho's podcast this week. Malachi Black explained everything, and it was awesome. So until Bray Wyatt, sets the record straight, we're never going to know. His entire run is WWE. He's a WWE product. So you can go watch everything on the network, on Peacock, and go from there. Now, another release.
Real quick, and then Dave Meltzer entered the Twitter chat and said, "What about New Japan? Do we like
17 stars.
Yeah. No. Sorry.
Will Ospreay should be going to AEW.
So then another release, the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Woo!
A lot of people were upset and angry about it, which I don't understand that anger at all. So he went to Twitter, and it's interesting. Like, for iPhone users, it seems that everybody writes their tweet in a note and then screenshots it, because you can put more in a note than you can on Twitter because of the amount of characters. And people are like so bent out of shape about that. But here's what Nature Boy wrote at Ric Flair Nature Boy. "I'm officially able to respond to all the press related to my requested release from WWE, which they have given me. I want to make it really clear that everyone that I am not upset with WWE at all. They solely are responsible for putting me in the position of life that I'm in right now, where I'm seen in the biggest light ever. We have a different vision for my future. I wish them nothing but continued success. Thank you for everything. Nothing but respect." Brian, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the Nature Boys release?
I keep refreshing at AEW on Twitter to look for the Ric Flair is all elite graphic. That should be up any moment now. Listen, we all love the Nate. He's earned every right to do whatever he wants in his career. I posted it on my Twitter, the clip when it led off with his retirement story in WWE of the I will never retire. He's living the gimmick. That's him, right? So while I'm sad to see that he's gone, it's probably best because so much of his work the last couple of years is directly tied in with Charlotte. And you look at AEW, hello, Arn Anderson, hello, Tully Blanchard, hello, Cody Rhodes, the whole Rhodes family history there, Dustin. There's a lot he can do. And while I don't want him to be opening and closing every Dynamite and Rampage, I am curious to see what he'll end up at AEW. I'm putting that, to the bank right now. And I'm curious to see what he'll do. I think hopefully he does some fun things.
I do not want Ric Flair at AEW. Because there's only one thing he can do. He doesn't, no, you know what? He can be affiliated with Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, which he has stated their relationship is not what it used to be.
Right.
The positive for signing Ric Flair is the fact that he can go and win over advertisers. I mean, have you seen the Car Shield commercials? I mean, come on. But seriously, though, I mean, obviously, if you can go into a company and say, we have Ric Flair on our TV show, everybody in the world knows who Ric Flair is. Much like Hulk Hogan, much like Tony Hawk, like those are athletes that Michael Jordan, everybody knows whether they're fans or not. I just think that he needs to just retire. I don't want to see Ric Flair. In my opinion, it'll be just another wasted space for a legend that can't do anything. Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Jake Roberts, and Taz. We don't need another one. They don't need another one there. I hope Ric Flair does not go to AEW, but a lot of this, now reports are the reason why he has to release, he was not happy with creative. Now, does that mean the way they paired him with Lacey Evans and she got pregnant? Do they mean that Charlotte lost to Nikki Ash a couple times? Does that mean the way they treated Andrade on his way out? Who knows? I feel like when he does the Jericho interview, that's what's going to, when all that shit comes out. Kevin, what do you think all this?
I think that Rick just can't sit at home. I think the dude's going to be active in the wrestling world truly until one day we just hear a report that he died. He's going to be 10 years from now. He's going to be the same thing. Woo, woo, woo. The little woo woos, not just the woos.
81, 82 years old. Just woo.
Yeah, honestly, he will. He will be Ric Flair until the day he dies. And that means TV, spotlight. Hopefully he goes away for a little bit. But if he goes to AEW, it has to be some type of Arn, Tully, something in there. It can't just go and just be Rick. It just can't, because it would be wasted.
For the 50 and over crowd, maybe, but the younger crowd doesn't give a shit about the Four Horsemen. What do you got, Joe?
I agree. I don't think he should go to AEW. I'd love for him to just basically sit it out, go do cameos, go do appearances, go promote your Adidas shoe, make your Car Shield commercials. Yeah, I know.
2 shoes.
But AEW, I mean, what are we going to see? Him turn on Sting for the 1 millionth time?
Tony Schiavone can't wait to say it.
And if Sting falls for it, then he's had too many headshots.
Where's Jay? Is Jay Lethal in Ring of Honor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe Rick goes to Ring of Honor for a little Jay Lethal. Woo, woo. Go back and forth just for one.
That's such my favorite moment of TNA.
Or long shot GCW against Nick Gage.
And then we won't see him make it to 82.
We won't see Ric Flair. He won't be making it to 82. And finally, now another rumored that a contract expires after SummerSlam would be one Adam Cole. Now, he signed like a 3-month kind of like goodwill contract to get through SummerSlam to probably, finish off some of these storylines. And everybody assumes AEW. His wife is there. He's part of the elite. He's part of the Bullet Club. Like, he has connections and the storylines are written. For me, if AEW is where he goes, I'm actually more excited for Adam Cole and AEW than CM Punk.
Interesting.
I just think that the history that Cole has with these guys, they'll do better stories than a guy that quit, went away, and then came back for the big bucks after years of trashing the wrestling industry.
Which and still don't know. You're mad at him for blocking you on Twitter.
I'm not mad anymore because I said I deserved it.
That did happen.
I said I deserved it. And real quick story.
He chanted for beach balls when he was trying to do his pipe bomb.
No, we're getting them all crossed up now. Yeah.
No. This was I flew to Cleveland for his UFC debut. I was so excited. Anything can happen in mixed martial arts. And I was like, this is great. So I went. And the big thing leading up to it in all of his press interviews were, what music were you going to come out to? And he kept quiet. He wasn't going to say anything. So the day of the event, me and my buddy Doc, who I've mentioned on the podcast before, we walked over to the arena. They usually have like a little fan zone setup thing outside. And then I went into the Cavaliers team store to see if they had any UFC merchandise. Well, they were doing sound check, and they were sound checking Cult of Personality. So I'm like, that has to be him. So it has to be him. So
it was CB Dalloway, as it turns out.
So I went outside and I tweeted that it was, and I was so excited. And then all of a sudden, Doc and I are walking back to our hotel, and we'll say 300 yards in front of us was a man and a woman walking down the sidewalk in front of us with CM Punk and AJ Lee. So we kind of followed him just to see because we were staying in the UFC hotel just by chance. Just by chance. No, literally it was like I had no idea until
I need two sources to prove that you didn't stalk him.
So I booked my room, and then UFC does the leading up to pay-per-view, they do this thing called Embedded, where it's like a 7 or 8 minute video clip of the fighters each week or each day. It's like a vlog. Well, we'll say I stayed at like the William Penn or whatever. And then on the second day of Embedded on Tuesday, it was UFC Fighter Hotel, William Penn. I'm like, oh, we're in the fucking Fighter Hotel. It's awesome. So we started walking behind him, like I said, about 300 yards, just because they wanted to be weird. And then to see if they were staying in the same hotel. And then they like made a left, and then they like vanished. So anyway, I checked Twitter. CM Punk blocked me for putting that Cult of Personality was sound checked, and that's probably going to be his song. So if I ever meet CM Punk, I would love to tell him because it wasn't from a shitty place. Like, it was excitement and like, this is awesome.
But
I mean, it flew across the country.
No spoilers. But you're Mr. No Spoilers.
He learned his lesson. Jay
I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Now you understand why you got
Now
blocked.
we know. Yep. That's
Look,
how it all came about.
I totally understand. And that account's been deleted for years. So like now we're good. Like I can follow him and see what's going on. But like if I ever meet CM Punk, away. I hope I can get 2 minutes of his time to tell him the story because it wasn't from a shitty place. How the fuck did we get here?
Yeah, bring it back to Adam Cole. That's my fault. I said CM Punk blocked you on Twitter. You're more excited about Adam Cole.
So
to
I
AEW,
am more excited about Adam Cole to AEW than CM Punk, which we still don't know if that's happening. Yeah. We'll start with Joe. Thoughts on Adam Cole? Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? What do you want it to be like, baby?
I am very selfish. I want him to stay in NXT. I think him and Triple H have a connection, according to him. I think he also has a connection. You're talking about the Elite. That's
two sources.
No, in interviews and all of his specials that were on the WWE Network. RIP, unless you're in Britain or overseas, whatever. I'm off. So I was 200 yards away from CM Punk. No, I'm going off track. Never mind.
300 yards.
I want him to stay in NXT. Because he is NXT. That is his baby. I want him to stay there. I think he would just get lost in the shuffle in AEW. I think they have enough Adam Coles there that they don't need another one.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I like the dynamic that he also has on Up, Up, Down, Down with Woods and all those guys.
I don't know if that would mean he would not be able to be on there because some of these guys that have been released.
I don't think it would either, but it would. I don't know.
I'd be close.
I want him to stay in NXT.
Kevin, you look like you had something to say.
I would like. I agree with Joe. I would personally like him to stay in NXT, just so NXT talent is something, because Adam Cole brings a lot to the table. But I do think he will leave for AEW. His girlfriend's in AEW, Britt Baker. Traveling with her would probably be nice. I, on the other hand, would like to, of course, him to stay in NXT. But if he does go to AEW, I just think of the matches that could go on. Like so many good matches. Joe, you mentioned they do have several Adam Coles, but that gets me excited because seeing him versus Hangman, that would be phenomenal. Him versus Omega, phenomenal. Him versus Moxley, phenomenal. Like it would just be so many matches that would be phenomenal. I'll say it again.
The only issue with him staying at NXT, he's done everything. He's fought everyone. There's not really much else for him to do. Brian, we'll wrap up the Adam Cole stuff with you.
This is a tough one from his perspective, and that me as a fan, I totally get whatever he chooses. You want to go to the competitor that your girlfriend is the top women's star.
The top.
If not like overall, she's like
way
up there too.
She's a top talent. She's
top
on top
in general, completely.
Oh,
so I totally get that, Jay. Your point about the Bullet Club history, then you have some great tie-ins, stories there. The one thing that I feel a little difficult with justifying him going over there, though, is that when you think of the guys that have gone and so far have had success, like Rusev, Miro, Malachi Black, so far, really good success, you can go, well, yeah, great that they're having this opportunity because they were misused by WWE. You can't say that about Adam Cole. He's been presented as a big star since the moment he invaded at the takeover and attacked Drew McIntyre. And so you're right, Jay. He's done pretty much anything there is to do in NXT. So I would think if I was WWE, I'd put the blank check to say, do you want to go to Raw or SmackDown? Do you want to stay at NXT? But I'd leave it up to him, leave it up to him and say,
if he goes
whatever
to Raw,
you want.
If he goes to Raw or SmackDown, we know what's going to happen. He's going to get lost in the shuffle.
I mean,
because he's not
right.
6'7". He doesn't look like Lashley. He doesn't look like McIntyre. I mean, ideally, he is the second coming of Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, for him, it's what do you want, man? Yeah. And if he's like, I do love NXT, but I have to chase WrestleMania and I have to chase being the star of Raw. Maybe that's a carrot that he'd be willing to try to take a bite of, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. I totally get if he leaves for AEW.
Yeah. And then one other thing that just popped up a little bit ago, another contract that might be running out soon is Pete Dunne. Now, obviously not the same level as Adam Cole, but Pete Dunne's had a lot of stop and starts, whether it's an injury thing or, whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to Pete Dunne. Well, we're going to move on from firings and possible people leaving to AEW, the third labor of Jericho. Last week, we thought maybe Hoovy would come out without a mask and Jericho maybe would wear the mask because Jericho won the mask. 24 years ago when all that 1998, when all that shit happened.
Wow.
Which is crazy to say because I was very active in watching wrestling in 98, with WCW. What'd you guys think of the third labor? We'll start with Joe.
I thought it was okay. I didn't think they had chemistry together at all. They did a couple spot stops and start up again, like they were thinking that there was going to be
Botchamania.
Yeah, It was hard to watch, and I'm glad it was on first, so I wasn't down at the end of the show.
Brian?
I'm with you, Joe. Same thing. There's a lot of clunkiness that you don't, see all that often in a Jericho match. And, it was fun for the throwback. It was fun for Hoovy to have a spotlight to shine and see him again on TNT. It's been so long. I think, you probably, in retrospect, if you're doing the labors of Jericho again, you maybe put it in the reverse order and have him last week and then Nick Gage this week. But yeah, it wasn't great.
And Kevin?
The match it was very odd. It like there's one move where Hoovy came off the top of the Hurricanrana, then he went back up and like Jericho, like Hoovy paused, Jericho kind of leaned over already going into the move, and it looked weird. Like Hoovy still looked very young. I don't know how old the dude is,
I know.
But he looked incredibly young, and he was still pretty buff. And it wasn't part of the match, but MJF going out before in front of the crowd and just seeing everyone so close, like thumbs down, yelling at him. That was the highlight of that whole match. Like that was because it was money.
If you go to @thatwrestlepod, the social team posted they retweeted something from MJF. It's him, and it's all these like typical Florida scumbags sitting behind him, and the guy flipping him off with the thumb up in there. What the fuck is the thumb? I don't understand. But the social team wrote, are they hitting or giving you a thumbs up? Like, what is the deal?
You can't decide.
It's the No Limit tank. That's what they're doing. They're bringing that back since it was 1998 Hoovy Jericho. They wanted to go make them say,
the one thing none of you said. How awesome was the Judas effect off the top rope, though?
That was fucking.
I forgot
awesome.
About that.
That was
stipulation. I forgot about. He had to win from the top rope. So when he did that, I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
And they mentioned it throughout the entire match.
I forgot going into it, and sometimes I'm in and out of JR. Sorry.
Yeah, that was such a cool way to end. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna say Hoovy's failed Hurricane off the top, and Jericho catching, getting him into the walls was pretty good. I was like, it can't end right here, right?
It was very clunky.
But it was clunky where Jericho fell on top of him.
Yeah. And they were like, "Oh yeah, that was a top rope move." No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
They
can't all be 5 stars.
But we get Wardlow.
Yeah. So I assumed you had to go through all 5, then MJF, but apparently MJF is number 5.
Yeah.
Next week it's Wardlow and Jericho, and here's where fucking Jim Ross again. MJF said he'll be with Wardlow at ringside. And then they said he was the special guest referee. What is it? What the fuck? What the freak? Yeah. It's hard not to swear. Come on.
Get that swear jar.
What that?
I was going to say, we're going to have to get you a bar of soap.
And then
you're going to have to start beeping yourself.
Never mind. So next week, Wardlow and Jericho. MJF may be the special referee. He may be at ringside. Tune in to find out. So then there was this Elite promo. And now everyone's looking way too much into it because Luke Gallows was wearing a Ric Flair robe. Carl Anderson was wearing the Bollywood Boys t-shirt. They just got released
I didn't
from
catch
WWE.
That. I didn't catch
and
that one.
They
He was doing the ball the whole
they
time.
They were on Jericho's podcast last week. So great stuff. And, I like those guys. And then there was Kenny Omega, and he had a Cookie Monster t-shirt, which is very trendy. Like streetwear designers and companies like Supreme will put random like cartoon type things, and it's considered high fashion. Cookie Monster is one of them. Somebody online said, wait a minute. Cookie Monster starts with CM. Maybe this is a shout out to all the guys they want to come. It very well may be. Because then they were also saying, well, Bray Wyatt wore Hawaiian shirts and the Bucks had the Hawaiian short sets on. So maybe people just have way too much time on their hands. But we'll have to see how that goes. Hangman Adam Page had a weird night. Not getting the title shot. He breaks up with the Dark Order. He gets beat down by the Elite. The Dark Order gives him what he wants. They give him space. So I'm not sure how that's all going to play out. But Christian Cage is your new number one contender for All Out. And with that, I am so glad we're not going to Chicago because I don't want to see that match live. Brian, thoughts on Dynamite with the stuff that I mentioned?
Yeah, all of that. Well said. I don't understand. The Hangman story was perfect. It was perfect. It was built up for so long. And I thought, and here we go. We're going to get to All Out and he's going to win the title in front of this insane Chicago crowd. And they pulled this bait and switch. And before this situation with Christian Cage, I was willing to bet that, oh my gosh, Punk is going to show up on that Rampage on the 20th. And then he's going to fight for the title at All Out. And they're going to say, screw the rankings, screw everything we've been all about. And I'm like, and that's going to suck because even though the match and everything would be exciting about it, that it would throw everything out the window.
They've thrown away a lot of shit they've said from doing the whole fresh and new thing and ref's discretion and the rankings. But they said because the Dark Order and Hangman lost that tag match, that counts towards their records. Therefore, the Dark Order don't get a tag title match.
Yeah.
Hangman's not getting the championship match, and they're going to draw it out again for another year.
I don't understand it. Yeah,
I don't either. Kevin, thoughts on the early part of hour one of Dynamite?
The only reason why Hangman losing is maybe the big potential new people on the roster. He's going to have some big matches with them.
Why can't he do it with
That's
himself?
That's optimistic. And I see where your son gets it from.
I would like to see him because with Dark Order, he was optimistic. Maybe he's gonna just become like an angry drunk now. Like,
I mean, like he's been for the last
he's
year and a half?
But he's been a friendly drunk.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen.
It'll be interesting. I think he'll take a dark turn and
he needs to be a loner.
Yeah.
I mean, can Bray Wyatt play a cowboy? Can CM Punk? Can Daniel Bryan play a cowboy? Maybe they pair him up with like the new smoking gun. Put Billy Gunn's there. Fuck.
That's true.
Hey, make it happen.
Bring in Bret Hart. He was a cowboy at one point.
Yeah.
briefly. So the big thing from hour two of Dynamite was the main event, Malachi Black and Cody Rhodes. And Cody made another superstar. He got beat down by Malachi Black, but then he made it about himself with his sappy, teary speech, outside interest, blah, blah, blah. And then he got beat down by Malachi with the crutch to end the show. Joe, what'd you think of the main event first, and then we'll get into Cody's rambling?
It was exactly what it was supposed to be. It made Malachi Black a big deal, which we already knew he was. Maybe the AEW fans didn't know him as well as we did, but they know him now. He was a made man Wednesday night. That's all I got to say about the match. It was 4 minutes of just basically whooping on Cody, fade to black, done.
Very reminiscent of the Brody Lee beatdown of Cody. Yeah. But that was when Cody went to film that dumb TBS talent
Bigger
show.
Go Home.
Which he's doing season 2 now. So
which is what so Brian, what'd you think of the retirement bullshit?
Yeah, it was the same thing. Like, oh, Cody, how does it always come back to you? It's like we had and again at the end it does go back to Malachi because he beat him again, so that was great. But yeah, it really was a great match. It totally elevated Malachi Black and showed him as a very important player, new on the AEW roster. And then it was like, oh, here we go. You got to talk about, there's always the WWE references of like, they had a plan for me, but I didn't follow the plan. It's like, oh, I've heard this for 7
fired
years
them,
now.
they didn't
Yeah.
fire me.
We're
Exactly.
competition now. I'm not. We're not an
Right. It's like,
alternative.
okay, come on. Yada, yada, yada. So,
Where
yeah, I
was
guess.
his salmon sports coat? That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, well, he'll be on Rampage doing play-by-play with the other 3 guys. Maybe
What
we
the
can
fuck?
touch on that, Jay.
Yeah, right. We're gonna get into that right now. So they announced, next week is the first episode of Rampage, and I don't know if you did that on purpose because I hate the 4-man booth. But they announced the 4-man booth. It's Taz, Excalibur, Jericho, and Mark Henry. Now, I hope this is just for the first show. Mark Henry and Excalibur by itself would be perfect. Well, no, it would be good, not perfect. Perfect is Excalibur and Jericho. I think they're going to be the Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan once Jericho's in-ring career is over.
Yeah.
Even though Jericho he yells and screams a lot. I just find it so entertaining. But the 4-man booth, it doesn't work now. It hasn't worked for the last year and a half. Why Taz has to be on commentary when his guys are in the ring? Why Jake Roberts has to be on commentary? Why Don Callis? No, 4 people is too many. 4 people is too many for a live television broadcast, not a podcast, Joe. I saw that look on your face.
I was thinking it too.
Yeah. So
Let's not look in the mirror. But I agree.
Rampage is next week from Pittsburgh, as is Dynamite. And I'm not thrilled about the 4-man commentary team. And I don't know if I'm the only one. Kevin, we'll go to you.
It will just get messy. I don't know. It's because Taz, he has to be a heel, right? And then Jericho's going to be a heel announcer. Excalibur.
No. Jericho's babyface.
Well, he'll be a face now. Yeah.
Yeah. But
when he's heel, he'll be heel.
But Excalibur does a fantastic job. I don't want to see Mark get lost. That's my biggest thing, because I love listening to him on Busted Open and in his.
Really, you do?
I do.
He just sounds like he has marbles in his mouth when he talks, man.
Better than Tommy. Better than Tommy.
No way.
Yes.
Get out of here.
Bully.
Bully yourself, Jay. Good job.
Nice guy.
What was Big Show ever going to be on one as an announcer or no?
He's on Monday. He's on the internet shows.
Okay.
And I actually thought he was going to be the next labor for Jericho since they were a team. And then the 5th one would have been Lance Storm.
Oh,
that would have, but that's obviously not happening now. But
actually, MJF's going to extend it, so it's going to be the 10 labors. So buckle up.
Buckle up. He's had
Dean Malenko is in there.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week on AEW TV. And I want to touch one quick thing on GCW. One follow up thing. I got a text message this week. We all did. Hey, Mark Cardona is going to be on Renee Paquette's podcast. Should be a good listen. And I brushed it off. Did any of you listen? Well, Brian, you're the only one that's going to listen. Did you listen to it?
I haven't yet. I may tomorrow.
So I didn't listen, but I read some stuff. He apparently, being the big mark for himself that he is, sold every piece of gear that he had on during that match. The boots, the gloves, the fucking wrist tape, the bloody shirt, and apparently made more money from the marks than he did for the match itself. Now, this guy, I said it last week, I'll say it again. Huge fucking mark for himself, man. No, that's not smart, Joe.
If you could sell a bloody tank top and tape and make more than a match, you're pretty smart.
I feel like something like that. And this is such, and he even said it's a huge landmark, a huge accomplishment. Not everything should be about money. I would think you would need to keep something from that. And I think the shirt, as a guy, he's a collector of fucking everything, especially of himself. So I just think I'm not surprised, but I just feel like, I feel that I am correct. He's going to have the belt until he loses it, which probably will be soon. Brian.
I think he started a new trend. Did you guys see Malachi Black pick up Cody's boot? He knows he can sell that and get some money at the end of the day. He started trends.
He picked up that boot to prevent him from retiring.
In Malachi Black, took that crutch that belongs to Hornswoggle because it was so little.
Yeah. He
Tiny
said,
Tim's crutch was taken off of Cody Rhodes.
he said, wait, Cardona's wrist tape got how much money? I'm taking
Yeah.
that move. I'm heading to eBay.
Yeah, so go check out Oral Sessions with Mark Cardona. Apparently it's a good listen, Brian.
Or
You can
not.
follow.
Yeah, I'll let you know next week.
Yeah. And then so we're getting ready for the 5 count. And every week we have these discussions of trying to figure out what the 5 count's going to be. An interesting fact I heard this week is that 90% of the roster that was on WrestleMania 30 is gone from WWE. So we're only 2 years away. Well, 3 years. WrestleMania 38 is in Dallas, 39 is in LA, and then 40. So for this week's 5 count, we're talking about 5 talents that we think are going to be on the WrestleMania 40 card.
That Wrestling Podcast presents the 5 count.
It is the 5 count. This week, it's about 5 guys or girls that we think will be on the WrestleMania 40 card. We'll start with you, Kevin. Who is your 5 count? And once you're done, tell us what your main event of WrestleMania 40 is going to be. And it does not have to consist of guys on your 5 count.
Got it.
Or maybe it does, whatever you want.
Number 5, I have Roman Reigns. I think Roman will be a WWE for life guy. Made his name there. I think he's going to be just loyal to the end. Number 4, I have Big E. I think Big E is getting bigger and bigger, and that's crazy because he's been on the main roster for so many years. I read a thing that he wants to get his name Langston back in, so he's known as Big E Langston.
Will he be Bigger E Langston?
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe. But number 3, I have Walter. I think Walter will, within time, finally get to that main roster. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, so that's why we're projecting years ahead of now. So I have Walter at number 3, Bianca Belair at number 2. I think Bianca is going to be a star for many, many years. I wanted to put Sasha in there. I don't think Charlotte. I almost tinkered around with another person, but I thought Bianca was going to be the biggest lock. In number 1, I couldn't pick everyone that is already in the WWE family. I had to think of somebody. Maybe in a couple years, WWE is going to turn it around, start stealing some talent from the other companies. Total long shot, 1 million to 1. But if it happens, I'm the genius.
I'm going to be pissed if you say what I have. Go ahead.
I have MJF as my number 1 on my 5 count.
Wow. Okay. So,
And
your main event.
I have a triple main event. They're going to stay friends for a couple more years, but we're going to finally see Big E as champion going against Kofi and Xavier Woods in the main event.
Fun.
That's an awful main event. That's
Oh,
like a pre-show
wow.
match.
That's
wow.
fun.
Wow. I can't believe I said that.
Man.
So I'll go next. I went a
Somebody
little.
didn't eat their bootios today.
I did get hit by a pancake once at a WWE live event, and that fucking hurt.
I was like,
right
that
on the
must have
ankle.
sucked.
Right in the ankle. So I went a little different route than you, Kevin, which is fine because there was really no rules on this. Number 5 for me is Lance Archer. He was in WWE a while ago, but went to Japan, turned everything around, and he's a big dude. And if Vince is still alive in 3 years, I feel like they'll try to make a play for him. Number 4 is Ridge Holland. Now he just returned to action on NXT. Before he left, he was in the Pat McAfee, Oney Lorcan, Pete Dunne crew. And he's the one that dumped Adam Cole ringside, just dumped him. And then he got hurt in the match and then he was out. So he just came back. But I think he's got a big future. Number 3, Adam Cole. I know I said earlier if he goes to the main roster, but I think if he sticks around, I think he will be a big part of WrestleMania. Number 2, Bronson Reed. Another big guy. I'm a fan of his. I know a lot of people aren't too high on him, but I am. And number 1, of course, My poker face was for shit. MJF. I do think MJF sometime will get to the WWE, and my main event will consist of MJF versus The Miz.
Ooh, trash talking main event.
Go ahead, Brian.
My number 5. I'm most excited about my number 5. Gable Stevenson. Do you guys know
the
who
gold
I'm
medal.
talking about?
Or he's going for gold. Well,
yes.
Well, depending when you're listening
by
to
the
this.
time you're listening. Exactly. And for those who aren't familiar with Gable Stevenson, he is the NCAA Division I wrestling champion from the University of Minnesota, much like a guy who's had a little bit of success in WWE, Brock Lesnar. Yes, like you said, Jay, he's wrestling for the gold medal in Tokyo on Friday morning Eastern time.
So it's probably already happened.
Exactly.
Happened. So good luck, USA.
He's won his first 2 bouts and he hasn't gotten scored on. He hasn't given up a point. He's dominated both guys. His brother, I read, is signed to NXT. Triple H congratulated Gable on making the gold medal match on Twitter.
Read the tweet. Do you have it?
No, I don't. I'll pull it up. Give me a minute.
It was pretty cool because while I don't know a lot about Gable Stevenson, I saw that tweet today. And it sounds like an amazing thing happened in the Olympic the match itself. I don't know anything about amateur wrestling.
Yeah.
My nephew did it. My youngest nephew is now learning to do it. My brother-in-law is a wrestling coach, but Triple H, the tweet had me sold like, God damn, maybe I should try to find this and watch it because the Olympics are all over the place. I have no idea when anything's on.
Right.
So did you find it?
I spent a ridiculous amount of time last night looking on Peacock and CNBC and all these channels to find it. And apparently I did not have it. Apparently there's an Olympic channel and I don't have it. And for some reason I can't get Hunter's, what is his Twitter handle? What am I missing, guys? Is it Paul Levesque or I mean, what?
It's Stephanie's.
It's literally
Stephanie's bitch.
Triple H.
Well, why isn't it coming up in my search? This is so ridiculous.
Because you're so
okay. There. Oh, I'm spelling HHH. That's
H,
why.
not X.
Okay, I have it here.
He puts
right
triple H. He spells it out. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jay.
So the tweet, I read this and I'm like, man, I really should be watching this. And we saw Gable Stevenson at he was at a takeover.
Yeah, he was. Like, he got the front
ringside.
row cameo. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Is he signed? Do we know?
He's not signed, but his brother is.
All right, maybe that's what it is. The tweet from @Triple-H, spelled triple.
Yes.
10 points in 2 minutes. 8-0 victory over reigning champ. Gold medal match next. Legends falling. Legends being made. Gable Stevenson equals machine. I have a feeling they are going to throw the fucking bank at this kid, especially if he wins the gold medal to be, another gold medalist. But so that's your number 5, right, Brian?
That's my number 5. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he'll do. Number 4 is Alexa Bliss. I think as long as her body and her health holds up to the physicality of the business, she's had some injuries, she's had some concussions. I think she's a lifer as far as her charisma is always there in every iteration of her character. So she's my number 4. My number 3 is Raquel Gonzalez, the current NXT Women's Champ. I think in a couple of years, maybe you're going to see Charlotte, fingers crossed, Joe, Becky, Sasha, Bailey all start to cycle out, right? It's going to be a couple of years from now. Raquel has a great look. She has an amazing size. And I enjoy her promo work. She kind of weaves in some Spanish in there, which is kind of like, oh, okay, you got to take notice on her. I think the sky's the limit for Raquel. My number 2, I've sang his guys' praises for a long time now. Montez Ford of the Street Profits. I love Montez. I think he can do it all. He's so talented. He's got the highest frog splash I've ever seen. He can talk. He's so charismatic. I can't imagine WWE can miss on Montez Ford. Please don't miss on Montez Ford. He's amazing. And my number 1 is your number 5, Kevin. It's Roman. Roman's the face of the company. He's going to be there as long as he wants to be. He's my number 1. My main event, Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. They're finally going to have their number 1 or their one-on-one match. There's not going to be Ronda this year with the baby. Becky's apparently coming back, hopefully anytime now, maybe in the fall, maybe in SummerSlam. So I'm going to put that in and pencil that in for Mania 40. Ronda versus Becky.
And Joe.
All right, my number 5, Seth Rollins. He's a lifer. He's not going anywhere else. He's so good that I don't think they're going to want him to go anywhere else. He's one that's going to be protected. I think Seth is good to go. Number 4, got to have a monster. And the monster they're building up right now, almost.
Oh,
He will be on WrestleMania 40. I don't think he's going to be going in the main event, but the rule
Does
was,
the Andre the Giant Battle Royal count as being in WrestleMania?
I think it does.
Okay, we'll allow it.
He's getting better each week.
He is. I think so too.
And he's going to be the new monster. No one's bigger than him. And no one's meaner than Tamina, but she's not on my list. Number 3, The New Day. All 3 of them. They're all still going to be there. They've been there for so long, and they just move merchandise, and they seem to love what they're doing. I know Xavier Woods was on Twitter this week when he saw the guy with the up, down, down belt. He said, I'm not going to do this till I'm 80. So I appreciate you doing this. This isn't going to last forever. It's going to last at least till WrestleMania 40. That could be their swan song. Who knows? But
maybe in that awful triple threat match that Kevin wants.
Yeah, maybe Kevin's awful triple threat match.
Well, it works out because Joe also agrees they'll be on the show. So there's a chance.
Number 2.
There's a chance.
Bianca Belair. She's young, she's athletic, she's a champion. Unless she starts a family, she will be on WrestleMania 40. And number 1, he's the head of the table. He's the face of the company. He's going to be there for as long as he wants to.
He's on your shirt.
He's on my shirt. It's Roman Reigns. And the main event, which could be this year's main event. It's not like they've never done the same main event before or same matches over and over again. But I think the main event of WrestleMania 40 is going to be Roman Reigns versus Big E.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I had Seth Rollins on my list originally, but I had Seth in the Roman spot. I figure if Roman pulls this thing off for the next 2 years, he's going to be in Hollywood. I mean, I think, like I said, I would love to see him hold the title until WrestleMania in LA 39, him and Dwayne. But I had Seth in the Roman spot. And so that's
I almost had Goldberg on my list.
Oh,
He'll find a way to be on there.
No, Goldberg's son, maybe, because he grew up.
Right.
That kid
Right.
looks totally
That's
different.
not the same kid, right?
It is the same kid. It's the same kid.
Yeah.
Did not look like the same kid to me.
Who made your 5 count? Let us know on social media using the hashtag TWP5count.
Another week in the books at That WrestlePod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go to YouTube. You can watch the video version of this on Wednesdays after it comes out on audio. You can check out some show clips. You can watch Brian get work to do a shoot. You can watch the Joe Bot 3000 and other show clips as well. We will talk to you next week on That Wrestling Podcast.
Thanks for listening. Follow That WrestlePod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
1, 2, 3, that's it!